Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome. What follows is a conversation that I recorded on July 23rd, 2016 with Damien, aka sleepyreader666. You may remember him from the Danger Club episodes where we talked about that wonderful series. I had an opportunity to go visit Damien in Portland, Oregon, one weekend not too long ago. And while we were there, we went to some comic shops and we decided to have a little discussion about the beginning of DC Rebirth, the first month or two of DC Rebirth. And that's what you will hear next. I just wanted to thank again Damien and his family for hosting me during that weekend. Had a lot of fun. We had many different conversations over the weekend that were not recorded, but that I enjoyed immensely. Damien, thank you for hosting me in my little trip to Portland with you.
It's been very exciting to have you here.
and going to these wonderful shops. I want to mention them because I found so many good books today that were on my wish list and some other things that were unexpected. So you have to remind me.
We went to three shops.
Okay.
We went to I Like Comics in Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, that's right.
And then back here in Portland, we went to Cosmic Monkey, which is, both of those are just incredible, large comic book shops. And then we went to a nice little small shop by my house called Cloud9. And Cloud9 was having a 50% off sale. And the first one I mentioned, I Like Comics, is kind of famous among my friends for having the giant 50-cent comics room.
Yeah, and that was the thing that's most impressed me about all these shops that we went to today, was because what I'm used to is comic book shops that have back issues, but they don't have any 50-cent bins. So to see, and there were boxes and boxes and boxes of 50-cent comics.
Right. That 50-cent comic section is probably bigger than some comic book stores.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It still blows my mind, and it lives near where I live.
So that's where I got the majority of the books that I bought today. So
Right.
I can't wait to add those to my collection. And now, but unfortunately, as I told you, I'm doing this whole recataloging thing with my collection.
Right.
Now I have to start all over with all these books that I bought today.
You mean because your boxes are packed so tight, you'll have to rearrange the boxes?
Well, I put everything alphabetically too, so that means I have to put them in and move them around. So I gotta start all over.
So the only solution is to never buy comic books anymore.
Oh man, that's a horrible thought. I know you were kind of struggling with that today, though, trying not to buy too much.
Right. Even though I live near these shops, just going to them, triggered my excitement of finding new comics.
Yeah.
And I found a bunch of unexpected things. The one thing that I'd been holding back off ever buying, but I really wanted, was copies of Marvel's old fan magazine, Foom.
Oh, yeah.
And they had one at the 50% off sale one for $14, which is probably the kind of price you see on eBay for it. Mm-hmm. So half price was $7, and I thought, well, I'll just go for that.
You did get it then?
I just bought a copy of Foom. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I had a subscription to Foom as a kid, and all my comics from my childhood are like 99.9% of them are gone, including all the Foom stuff. And old age has made me nostalgic for Foom. So we'll see what it's like. I haven't cracked it open yet, so we'll see what it's like to read an old Foom magazine and whether I'll want to get any more.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I've been going through this whole nostalgia kick, I guess. So I've been buying a bunch of books, runs of books, like the whole thing.
Right.
Just because I enjoyed those titles, those few issues that I read when I was younger. And for some reason now I decided, I want that whole thing so I can reread those initial issues and then see where the title
in the
ended
context
up.
of the entire run.
Yeah.
And I assume, like, if you were like me when you were young, you wished you could have gotten all the comics.
Yes.
But it was an impossible dream in the days of spinner racks at 7-Eleven and that
That's
sort
right.
of thing.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for showing me those shops. I will be back definitely to visit all three of those comic book shops. Especially, I like comics.
And there's at least two others that I think would be fun to visit, and there's even more in Portland, but two others I can think of.
What are the other
three
two?
in one day, especially with how long we spent looking through them, was about all we could handle.
Yeah. So I want to apologize for taking so long today.
No, that I totally understand.
Because we were at I Like Comics for, what do you say, about 2.5 hours?
2 to 2.5 hours. It's hard.
It didn't seem like it was that long, but the time flew by for me. But it was so much fun to find all the stuff that I did.
Right, and then maybe we spent, I don't know, 45 minutes at each of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not a full-time job yet.
Weekend warrior. This is our weekend warrior type stuff, right?
Right.
There we go.
Some people hunt big game. We hunted comics.
That's right. We hunt comics. There's something with that title. I gotta play with it. Okay, so but we're not here just to talk about these fine comic book shops in the Portland, Oregon area. We wanted to get together and talk just kind of generally about the DC Rebirth books. And
right at the time we're recording, it's been going for what, about a month and a half or 2 months?
Yeah.
2 months maybe.
Yeah.
Some comics are up to their third issue, but they also had the Rebirth issue, so that's 2 months. Have you generalized any thoughts about Rebirth at this point?
No, I am pessimistically optimistic.
Well, I have to say,
cautiously optimistic.
I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is pretty fun, but what happens when the events start up again?
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, isn't there an
announced Batman event?
A Batman event, right? Yeah. The what is that called?
Something about the Monster Man.
Monster Man, yes, exactly.
I don't think that'll be too bad, but it's a bad sign that they already have one.
Yeah.
That looks like a very minor one, and it's kind of weird because they're bringing Steve Orlando in to write or co-write all these connected issues in different series.
I didn't realize that.
So it may feel a bit like an interruption of the regular writers' work.
Yeah. So what are they going to be doing?
I don't catching up on the issue afterwards.
Well, plotting so they can meet their double shipping schedule, right?
Well, one of the bad things that I noticed about events during the New 52 is like a comic like Batgirl under Gail Simone would be chugging along very nicely, and suddenly it was like the brakes were slammed on and she had to hurry up and wrap something up because the next issue was going to be taken over by the Joker or some other event.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing that worries me. That I think the writers are going along doing a good job, and then so anyway, that's a worry. But one general thought I had about Rebirth, and it is very generalized, so it's not totally true of all these, but it feels like a bit of a return to decompression. The stories feel a bit more decompressed to me than most current comics. Like it feels like decompression was, which some listeners may not know the term, I suppose, but where they sort of stretch out scenes and have less dialogue, and the comics themselves read very fast and it has a more cinematic effect, sort of. It seemed like the height of that maybe was 5 or 6 years ago, and things have become a little more compressed, I thought. And now I'm feeling like maybe because they have to do 2 issues a month or something. There's a bit more, and it's not true for everything. Like, for instance, right in front of me, I have Nightwing Rebirth, and that was not decompressed at all. It was a very dense issue. But some of them, like, say, Titans Rebirth, it almost was just one scene stretched out for a whole issue. And I noticed that in a lot of them, not all of them, that there was a sense of stretching a bit.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong on that.
Well, and so I don't feel like I can really say anything just yet, because the way I get my comics, I'm only at most 2 issues in on some of them, and you're at least a week ahead of me, if
right,
perhaps if not more. So I don't know. I have some thoughts about particular titles, but as far as the overall Rebirth thing, The only thing I'll say...
I'm probably jumping the gun on that decompression thing.
But I think you have a good point, though. And your logic makes total sense, too, because of the double shipping aspect of it. The only thing I guess I'm concerned about is... So one of my complaints about the New 52 was that we lost that sense of the legacy in DC Comics.
Correct, yeah.
Now that that's back in a weird sort of way...
Right.
I'm a little concerned about it, and mostly I guess with like the Superman titles. Mm-hmm. Shall we just jump into the particular families of books and talk about them?
Sure. So the Superman title has brought back, and actually the main Superman title with Patrick Gleason and Tomasi seems kind of decompressed to me too. Mm-hmm. Actually, just to point out, but the main Superman title. And the Action Comics, actually, it's the Superman brought over from another universe that's kind of the Superman from before Pre-52. I don't know if they've defined it exactly, but it seems like all the adventures Superman had before the New 52, this Superman had.
Yes.
And he married Lois, and they had a child. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't read Convergence. Their universe got destroyed, and they somehow moved here.
Yeah, they got plucked out of time essentially by that Brainiac construct in Convergence, and somehow they survived the Rebirth event, or not the Rebirth, the whatever came after Convergence.
Right.
So yeah, so this is the thing that bugs me, that they had to quote unquote kill off the New 52 version of Superman so that we fans would feel more comfortable with this Superman.
Right.
I don't like that, and I don't buy it.
It's a bit odd because the other characters are slowly going to be given their missing 5 years back, but not the New 52 Superman. He got killed off, and some other Superman is plugged in, who in a sense has the old continuity, but then has a new continuity to him also.
Yes. Yeah.
So it is a very complex continuity if you think about it too much.
Oh yeah, and I know people that don't like. Now I'm a huge fan of the whole multiverse aspect of DC Comics, and I can totally see people being turned off by just this particular wrinkle in the DC universe now. This old Superman replacing the new Superman. Yeah.
Well, and if say you're a new reader who picks up Superman starting with issue 4. When they make references to it, you probably will have no idea what they're talking about if you haven't read the Superman Rebirth issue or haven't been following all the twists and turns of the DC universe. It's going to be a weirder comic to jump into for someone who just vaguely remembers Superman and says, "Oh, I want to start reading Superman." It's like,
But I will say, on the other hand, I do like the aspect of this Superman being the new guy.
Yes.
With the other characters, in relation to the other characters.
That makes it very fun.
And so I keep wanting and hoping to have those scenes. And they teased it in I think it was the Superman #1 issue.
Where the Justice League is talking to him while his son is looking on.
Yes. And so I really wanted to hear that conversation, and we don't get it. And that's fine. It's frustrating for me, but it's fine because I assume eventually we'll get it. The new Superman, well, I shouldn't say the new Superman, because there is a new Superman title on top of that. But the pre-Flashpoint Superman I will be involved with the Justice League, so I'm hoping that we'll get some of that. Now, having said that, if they ignore that aspect, I will be particularly upset.
Yeah,
because it seems like a very logical thing for them to address. And if they're just going to sidestep it, then I'm just going to be mad.
Well, it looks like in the Justice League that they do want to address it.
Okay.
Did you read the Rebirth, Justice League Rebirth?
I did.
And it was at least addressed to some degree that he was not a member of the Justice League and he was kind of coming in to help them out, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Lois and his son appear in a brief scene. It does seem like the kind of detail that as time goes by and these characters appear in a lot of different comics, it'll get fuzzier and fuzzier.
Yeah.
But I have to say, on another angle, on the Superman and Action Comics, to me, epitomize the real enjoyability of Rebirth right now.
Okay.
because I think one of their main points in it was to get back to very kind of a basic superhero kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman is your most basic superhero, and they've successfully made some very satisfying, very basic superhero stories out of it. You haven't read Superman #3 yet,
No,
but it's pretty cool.
okay.
And Action Comics has, for me, been very fun Superman story with a little bit of spice of him being Superman from a different universe, so he doesn't have quite the same history with Luthor,
right,
that the New 52 Superman had.
What do you? Speaking of that, though, what do you think of so Dan Jurgens, I believe, is writing Action Comics, right? So we get this kind of rehashing of events
in the Rebirth issue.
Yes, with Doomsday,
right?
And I think there's something else. I don't know if it was in Superman or Action Comics, but we get the Eradicator. That's coming back too,
right? And that comes to play in issues you haven't read.
Okay, but what do you think about that? It's kind of these bringing back those old ideas from the 90s.
I think as long as they keep juggling it correctly,
mm-hmm.
and not delve too much into the nostalgia of it, I think it's okay.
Okay.
There is a pandering to nostalgia
mm-hmm.
in the entire Rebirth thing,
and that's what
which
I'm
I think is probably fine for me, but I don't know if it's fine for everybody. And I think that a number of the Rebirth issues are confusing to some people who thought they were jumping on issues, and they were more like epilogue, prologue mishmashes that might not have made sense as a brand new reader in some of the cases.
Yeah, when you say that, I immediately think of Titans Rebirth.
Right, because that would make no sense on its own.
That did read very much like an epilogue to the DC Universe Rebirth issue.
Yeah. So I guess, another overall characterization of Rebirth is that it's fun superhero potato chips for me. I can just eat one after the other. They're
true.
Not too filling, but they're tasty, and I'm having fun while eating them, but I don't feel like they're masterpieces or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
They're all kind of down the middle, decent, fun superhero stories. And right now I'm really happy reading that.
Mm-hmm.
Will that get tiring after a while? I'm not sure how that'll play out for me.
Yes. Okay.
Whereas, looking back on the New 52 when it started, it was kind of a mixture of very ambitious, very interesting comics and some very poor comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way Green Arrow started out in the New 52, for instance, and some other ones. But then some really brilliant ones, like the way Batman with Scott Snyder started out, or the way Wonder Woman and everything came out of the gate, like really going for the throat of doing something that excited you.
Do you think?
And I think this is all in the middle. There's not the same highs and lows for me.
There is no Wonder Woman or Batman and Robin in my case.
Oh, Batman and Robin's another great example, of one of the really ambitious ones.
Although we do have the same creative team on the Superman title, so
right. And Superman was a little more ambitious than Action because, like, for instance, the first issue of Superman starts with a very quiet story with no villain.
Mm-hmm.
The conflict is a smaller conflict about growing up with a superpower, but it's not about the big explosions or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually one of the more ambitious. I suppose Wonder Woman might be ambitious too. Okay. Although it doesn't feel as ambitious as everyone. I'm not as familiar with Greg Rucka as everyone else that I talk with is, and everyone loves Greg Rucka and is sure he's going to do a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. You could count me among them. Yes. Right.
So I'm not. I haven't read enough. I've read like just one or two Greg Rucka series, and they weren't the big ones that he's famous for. Mm-hmm. And so I don't go bought into Greg Rucka, and I feel like so far he hasn't put his cards on the table, and I can't tell if this is going to be a good story or just kind of a okay story.
Yes, and I totally agree with you on that. I expected Rucka's Wonder Woman to be running out of the gate, right, just like the previous version of it, and it's not for me.
Yeah,
and then you get the whole interruption every every other issue of this year one story, and while both storylines, the art is fine.
The art, they're really good artists on both of them.
Yes, but I've only read one issue each of both storylines, and I'm already tired of that aspect of it.
Right.
And it's going to go on for at least 6 issues, I think.
Yeah. And these very much fit into my decompression theory. But Greg Rucka is a very decompression writer from the small amount I've seen of his work. But like the first issue of the present day story is, a little bit of Steve Trevor and a lot of Wonder Woman just walking through the jungle and coming to her final page where there's a reveal. And the year one story has a little more going on because it flashes back between Diana and Steve Trevor, but nothing really happens to the last page in terms of moving the plot forward. But it is a nice character piece. It gives us a sense of the life on Themyscira. I liked the year one so far, of the 2 tracks. I like the year one track a lot better.
I did too.
But it's the 3rd Wonder Woman origin I read this year.
Right? So
because I've read a lot of Wonder Woman, alternate Wonder Woman. I read Earth 1, Wonder Woman Earth 1, which is Grant Morrison's retelling of her origin. And I read my favorite retelling of her origin lately, which is The Legend of Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Which is really lovely. I read it digitally, so it's already done for me. You may be waiting on the last issue.
I am, yeah.
But it was it's not a perfect comic, but it was a very enjoyable comic with a lot of heart, and it was fun to read.
Yes, yeah. Lovely art. It's an interesting premise, I guess. Why, or allowance, I guess, by DC to allow Greg Rucka to tell both stories like this. That's the only comic I think that's doing something like that. Right. And so why? And so I expect that this year one story will have great impact to what's going on now.
Right.
And if it doesn't,
I hope so.
But if it doesn't, and all it is just Greg Rucka's retelling of Wonder Woman to anchor the character, so to speak, in this new universe, if you will, that's going to be a waste of my time, I think.
Yeah. I can see why he might want to do it because, in the hardcore Wonder Woman world, there was a lot of upset over what happened with the Brian Azzarello rejiggering of her origin. Brian Azzarello did not do an origin story, but Diana learns things that change the meaning of her origin.
Yes.
In a number of ways that are totally understandable to me as upsetting to hardcore Wonder Woman fans, but it was still, for me, such a wonderful story that I really enjoyed it.
Yes, agreed.
But so I wonder if that's part of why Greg Rucka is doing what he's doing.
I'm based on the interviews I've read of him. That's my sense of what he's trying to accomplish too.
Right.
For good or bad.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see. We can talk about it in 6 months' time, and we can reevaluate. We can
do a follow-up on Wonder Woman. Or on all of these.
What do you want to talk about next?
What do you think? Well, central to the DC world is the Bat titles. So do you have thoughts about those in general or specific ones?
Well, okay. So I have read just the first few issues of everything. And I have to admit, the first issue of
the main Batman title?
The main Batman. Okay.
What I think of as the Tom King Batman?
That's the Tom King Batman. And at first, that first issue, I was because Tom King to me is really just batting 1,000, right?
Right.
And with everything else he's doing. And so I guess I kind of expected he'd just hit it out of the park with this title. And that first issue was like, it's okay.
Exactly.
Where's Tom King?
Yes.
But I then read the second issue and am enjoying it more so, or less so for Batman and more so for Alfred.
Alfred is fun. He has a fun take on Alfred.
He does.
I kind of hope the Alfred thing leads somewhere. Like maybe it's because in contrast to the previous Alfred, it feels like Alfred has gone through some kind of change. And I wonder if that will change his actions. Will he just quip a lot, or is he going to do something about sort of his, I don't know exactly what his feelings are, but he seems to have more ambivalence about Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Which is weird, because that's not the sense of Alfred I got at the end of Scott Snyder's run. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. So I assume, of course, that this is just Tom King's way of putting his stamp on that character.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard to reconcile those two Alfreds in my mind between those two writers and those
Right.
runs. What do you think of?
I thought, just to get to Tom King for a little more, I thought of him as the radical writer. So what radical thing is he going to do with Batman?
Yes.
And he's done it exactly the opposite. It's a very down the middle. And I don't know if that's because he wants to please DC and go with kind of the program of what Rebirth is about at the moment. Or maybe he just wants to approach Batman differently than he has approached other things. Maybe he desires to do a kind of, core Batman story that is not. So it's hard to know how to read that.
Yeah, and of course we're only a few issues in, so we may be very pleasantly surprised as we go on with this that he will do what we're kind of expecting him to do in some fashion. So
again,
that's the caveat that we have to throw out there,
to me, this seems decompressed, and not that much happens in each issue. So I've read one more issue than you, and I still am not sure where it's going. There's some cool scenes in the third issue, but other than that, I couldn't tell you much.
What do you think of these two new characters, Gotham and Gotham Girl? These
actually,
Superman type.
we get the background on them in the next issue.
Oh, okay.
So actually, that is some meat. I forgot about that.
Okay.
We basically get the background on them and a big flashy action scene, and that's the issue. But I have to say, from reading their origin, it was nice, classic comic stuff. There was no special angle on it, I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well then I'm disappointed.
At least that's my take on it. You may read it and see something completely different. But it could be that we were given the official story about them.
Oh,
and maybe there'll be some other story that comes up 3 issues later that puts them in a different light.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it is interesting, just I guess on a surface level for me, that we get these the dichotomy between a Batman and a Superman-like character, in the setting of Gotham,
And now the Superman-like character or characters are his apprentices, his students.
Yeah, so I do like that aspect of it. Yeah,
I feel like it's a good comic. It's just it's not what I thought Tom King was going to give us. And it almost reminded me of just a solid, decent 1980s Batman story, but drawn, in a bigger scope by Finch.
Yeah.
And I'm not always a fan of, I'm forgetting Finch's first name, David Finch, but I've actually liked his work quite a bit on this Batman.
I think that might have something to do with the inker too.
That might too,
because this does not look. I mean, it looks like Finch,
and it's Jordi Belair coloring it, which probably she's probably never colored David Finch before, because she's generally been on the more fringe books. But also, it's amazing because he's now drawn 3 issues in a row, and I didn't think he was the kind of artist that could do. So they're doing a good job of keeping up with their dead, and eventually they have another person. So, and I dropped Detective Comics, and now I hear people saying that it's their favorite.
Really? Okay.
So I only read the Rebirth, or not because it didn't have a Rebirth. I read the first issue of the new Rebirth Detective Comics.
And based on that, you dropped it?
Yes. It seemed to me very... the writing just was so flat for me. I just did not enjoy the rhythms and the speech and everything. And it wasn't absolutely awful, but I was looking for something to not keep getting, because I'm not getting them in bundles like you are. And it seemed like a pretty good chance that it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm hearing a lot of people saying how they love it, so I may revisit it. Because I'm weak.
What did you think of the premise of Detective Comics, though, with training the younger characters, bringing in Batwoman?
Well, I could quibble with certain bits of it, but it could make for a fun comic.
Mm-hmm.
But I found it odd that Batman would want someone who he kind of knows to take over the training. And I thought that some of the characters might actually have as much training as Batwoman already, like Red Robin.
Exactly. I thought the same thing.
So I felt like they've suddenly downgraded Red Robin and also what's her name? Because they've changed her name, Cassandra Cain, whatever her hero name is at the moment, the orphan.
Yeah.
Weren't they bringing her in?
Mm-hmm.
And while I guess she could use some training, she could use some mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if she needs some training, because I think she's actually better at everything than everyone else already.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my
understanding
of her from the Batman and Robin Eternal books.
And even the second issue, the second Rebirth issue, whatever number that happens to be, they talk about how she is just as good of a fighter as Batman.
Right.
So there's that.
Maybe better. I thought there were some scenes where she
that's true.
Take him down.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like they're at least addressing it, and I think it's a formula for a fun comic book. But when I read this first issue, I just felt like I was seeing the formula on the surface too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a hard thing to describe, but I feel like some comic book writers have kind of a music to their way of not laying out, because they don't do the layout, but a music to their pacing,
mm-hmm.
and that certain writers just kind of their music clashes with my brain or something. I have trouble reading their comic, and Tinian is sometimes that way.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. So I'm that Detective would probably be the one that I drop of those two eventually, because I'm not going to maintain getting the entire line of DC Comics.
Right.
In the next month or two, I'm going to have to drop a bunch of these.
Right, because you have to spend some time with your wife. So then there's the main man, Nightwing, Dick Grayson. Right. He's just had the one Rebirth issue so far.
And I really liked it.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a really nice way to wrap up. Speaking of epilogue, like we mentioned earlier, this is a great epilogue for the Grayson series. And I thought Seeley did a really good job of tying up all those loose ends and injecting or directing Dick Grayson in a new but familiar direction.
Right. It made me a bit sad that Seeley didn't get to see Grayson to the end, though.
Yeah.
Because it was just weird, because Grayson was one of their best books, and then right when they're coming towards the finale, they pull the great writers off of it and just throw in a bunch of substitutes and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I liked it. It felt a little like I want to touch on this issue and I want to touch on that issue. Here's all these little bits and pieces that I want to touch on. So it didn't feel like many of the actual Rebirth issues don't feel like they tell me too much about. I guess the Court of Owls is going to be his, or they're not called the Court of Owls anymore, something else, because they're in Greece.
Oh, right, yeah.
The anyway,
I've forgotten too.
They're kind of the International Court of Owls,
and now they got the black masks instead of the white masks.
The white masks, yeah. And this is not the artist who will be doing it. Paquette, I like Paquette's art a lot, but I don't think he's the regular artist. So
no, I don't believe so.
So I'm definitely sticking around to see what happens with Nightwing, but yeah, just not sure. But I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Nightwing fan. In fact, I think visually, I just don't like the Nightwing costume.
What?
He's pulling out a gun, folks. Oh, no. Yeah, I've always been kind of turned off a bit by his costume. Anyway, but I will definitely check it out. I think Seeley without King is going to have a lighter tone. He's the like when Seeley and King were writing Grayson together, I think King brought the kind of serious narrative chops and all of that, and I'm just guessing that, and Seeley kind of brought some of the fun. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing we're going to see more fun, even when he's fighting the Court of Owls. I think it's going to have a lighter touch.
And I actually like that idea because that fits the character so much. During the last, not in Grayson, but say in like the Batman and Robin Eternal, especially, that was not the Dick Grayson that I know and love. You know, it was a take on him, but he's a much lighter personality, and I don't mean that in any kind of disparaging way. It's just he can have fun and do the superheroing too.
Right. And that was very noticeable in the good Grayson before the other writers took over.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, since we're on Nightwing, let's talk about
Titans.
Titans and move to that.
So I have only read Titans Rebirth, and I haven't paid attention if more Titans have come out.
I don't believe so.
It's one that I won't jump on, but I can imagine if I hear people like you saying it got really good, I might then check it out. Because I'm also realizing you can't always judge these comics by their Rebirth issue.
Oh, no. Definitely not.
The Rebirth is kind of like this. These Rebirth one-shots are like, okay, here's how this is our repositioning issue.
Yes,
where
setup.
We're moving the chess pieces back to our positions that we want them in or something.
They're kind of our meet cute with them.
Right. And the Titans Rebirth, you know, it was, for what it was, the writing was good. And I did not like the art.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a whole lot. It was just reintroducing Wally West back to the Titans. Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, my excitement about this title is a couple reasons. One is it's getting the band, so to speak, back together.
Back together.
My
Your
Titans.
Band.
and just this whole idea of the Wally West's examination and investigation of these missing 5 years and who's behind it and why. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to reading more about that. My misgivings about it is that we won't get those things in a satisfactory way.
Right. Yeah, and it's hard to tell from a Rebirth issue. It's kind of like I've learned through the course of the Rebirth to not judge the series by its Rebirth issue and wait for, the actual issue number 1 to start. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I ought to give the Titans more of a chance, but I don't know. I'm also looking for things to kind of cut. And I just am, this is an artist who just does not work for me. And I think he will be the main artist on the regular Titans.
I believe so, yeah.
And also, I think part of the problem is the coloring. The coloring's too shiny and glossy. It's a bit more of a 90s looking comic than most.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that. And there's a lot of red.
Right.
A lot of red hues in this. And I know you could say it's tying into Wally West's new red and silver Flash costume, but I didn't care for it either all that much.
I think if the coloring were better, it would bring me halfway to liking the art, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says next month, so this one's a monthly.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing what you and other people end up saying about it, but I'm going to take a back seat on it.
Okay.
And I guess the other big ones are the Flash and a couple of Green Lantern titles. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Green Arrow, sorry.
Well, let's since we're talking about Kid Flash, or the former Kid Flash, former Flash for that matter.
I don't know what they're calling him now, actually.
I don't either, actually.
So that'll be interesting.
Flashing? I don't know. Anyway. It's kind of surprising that and maybe they have announced and I just missed it, but he certainly doesn't have a superhero name in Titans Rebirth, right? I don't remember that.
I don't think they call him Wally, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so
the main Flash, have you read the first 2 issues?
First 2 issues, yes.
And the Rebirth issue.
Yes.
And I think that's all there's been.
Yeah.
And to me so far it's been okay. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping it will get better because I like this writer's work on his independent comics. And so I kind of had higher hopes for what he would do, and so far he's just doing an okay job.
Sort of kind of like everybody else, the middle of the road type.
Right. So yeah, like when you have more excitement over a writer, the fact that they're doing middle of the road work.
Yes.
It's a little clunkier. Like his comic Birthright is a very slickly paced, and the writer is Joshua Williams. A very slickly paced with all the beats done just right. And the Flash seems to have a lot of clunky scenes where people are standing around explaining things a lot.
There's a lot of talking,
especially in issue 2, I think. And it's not terrible at all, and I kind of like the art. It has a hint of Carmine Infantino mixed in with the more modern style, I thought. What did you think of the Flash?
Well, the Flash is one of those characters that I just don't really care for in the DC universe,
right.
Unless it's a Wally West Flash. So I've never been excited about Barry Allen as the Flash in the DC universe, and that first issue was really flat for me.
Yeah,
I read that first issue, Rebirth, and the first issue, and I thought, yeah, this is going on the chopping block.
Yeah,
and then I read the second issue, and it elevated the title to me just a little bit.
Did you like the secondary character becoming a Flash too?
Well, I would yes and no. This whole idea of multiple Flash type characters being thrown in this new storyline, it's interesting on one hand, but at the same time, one thing I like about the DC characters is their uniqueness. But and I realize when I say that, all of them or most of them have their sidekicks, which are basically them in smaller versions, right?
Right.
But just having the idea of having all these speedsters, I don't know. I don't. Where's this going, and why are we going there? And but I suppose that's the hook, right? So that gets us interested, but it's still on the chopping block for me.
Yeah, and I think I'm just sticking with it because of the hopes on this writer, but otherwise I would probably chop it.
Yeah.
And a kind of fondness for this slightly quirky art. But it does seem like the plot could just become a mess with tons of flashes and like what character do you focus on and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So and just one more thing about that. So when the other character, his friend, gets those powers, and then they spend much of the second issue kind of exploring
talking about the powers.
I thought, well, that'd be a new take on the whole sidekick thing or partner thing, right? With
True.
the Flash. But then they open it up to
people all over the city.
Yeah,
are getting
citywide
flashes,
flashes, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of made me nervous, and I can totally see that. So as soon as it's not part of the big bundle, you'll stop reading.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. For a book that I don't really care about, I seem to be bringing up a lot of points.
Yes.
But I thought it was interesting how Barry kept talking about the Speed Force as if it were a living organism. The Speed Force
it chooses people and things like that.
Yes.
Right.
Is this the Speed Force's way of giving me a companion, essentially, right? That I've never seen that in regards to the Speed Force before.
And I'm not comfortable with that idea. It makes it more of a mystical thing rather than like some scientific thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know it's gobbledygook anyway, but I kind of liked it as this sort of force of physics that somehow empowered him rather than some being that has sentience. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just fuzzy writing or something. We'll have to see if that comes to play more.
Okay.
How about Green Lanterns? Have you been
right.
enjoying reading them?
I was really looking forward to that book.
Really?
Because we only got a little bit of Simon Baz as Green Lantern in Jeff Johns' Justice League run.
Right.
And then they kind of dropped the character. He just kind of disappeared. And maybe he was in some Green Lantern books that I wasn't reading.
Right.
But so I was looking forward to seeing him, and I really started to like Jessica Cruz, the former New Power Ring.
Right.
And then putting them together as these rookie cops, if you will. I thought, well, that's an interesting way to approach this. And then I read the issue. And I don't recognize Simon Baz. as the character that I've read before. Mm-hmm. This is a different take on the character, and it's a little too buddy cop comedy for me.
Right. Yeah, it seems like these characters that are interesting and would make an interesting combination have been too oversimplified or something.
Yes.
So that each one has a one-note thing they do,
mm-hmm.
and after reading 3 issues of them, repeat those things.
Those
tropes about themselves,
yes.
kind of, in their conversations. It's like, okay, enough already. Let's move on.
Exactly.
And I'm not... And I also find the threat of the Red Lanterns to be incredibly vague and weird.
And repetitive.
Yes, and repetitive. And similar to some bad Red Lanterns comics I read before Charles Soule got on it.
Mm.
But, yeah. I don't know why I bought issue 3. I haven't read it yet, but for some reason I did. Just the potato chip theory, I think.
Yeah.
It's easier to keep buying some of these for the moment.
Well, one of the things I was looking at, because I still have yet to do, at the time of this recording, I still have yet to do my my order for the month. And I was looking at what's being solicited for Green Lanterns, and I realized that they have at least 7-part story. So now I have to decide, because I hate to stop in the middle of the storyline.
Right, so you have to figure out where the storyline is.
No, wait, I think that's the Flash, actually. I think the Flash has the longer one.
Oh, okay.
But I was looking for the breaking point already. Because I've only, like I said, I've only read the 2 issues, and I'm already looking for a way to drop it, a place to drop it. So that should tell you right there how I really feel about it. But that's too bad, because I really like Green Lantern, the concept. I love that concept. Whether it's Hal Jordan or other characters, I don't really care.
Somewhere here I have the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't seem to have it in front of us. But how did you like that?
I actually like that.
There it is.
Quite a bit. It explained some things about what was going on with Hal Jordan, because I didn't read all of the previous run of that book, and so I kind of lost track of what was going on, why he was the way he was, and why he was a renegade and all that stuff. So I got a nice refresher about what's going on,
mm-hmm.
and I like the comfort of him going off to rebuild the Green Lantern Corps. So I like that concept in the DC universe that we have this core of Green Lanterns, and they're out there helping people and being the cops of the universe, and we don't have that right now.
Right.
But then we have this thing with Sinestro
Old Man Sinestro and his traveling battle world.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
It's interesting to me, actually, but it's weird.
But
it seems strange. Where did it come from?
Exactly. It was an interesting thing to just kind of throw in there. But so yeah, again, it's a Rebirth issue, and so it's just a basic introduction to the characters and the status quo, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Well, what the Flash is to you, I think Green Lantern is to me. It's too much of floating around in space for me. Even though I love science fiction, it doesn't really feel like science fiction. It just feels like floating around in space to me.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Space cops,
right.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think I liked Ethan Van Sciver, but in this issue I really liked him, so maybe I should pay more attention to Ethan Van Sciver.
He's an interesting artist for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes he really nails it, and other times I look at his stuff and go, "What is he trying to do there?"
Yeah. So I think maybe sometimes I read Ethan Van Sciver and maybe the storytelling wasn't so good, or it looked muddled, or it was more about the big splash page than about really telling the story. But I thought that he did a really good job here.
Yeah, and the coloring, of course. I'm always impressed.
Yeah, the colors were very good.
With a good color artist on a Green Lantern book, because
how do you deal with all that green?
All that green, right?
I can't find the credit page. It's great how in comics the credits are on a different page in every issue, so you never know who the colorist is. Well, the price says in the cover, someone named Wright was the colorist. Yeah, it's funny. I can't decide whether I'll keep going with either of these Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
I really shouldn't keep going with the Green Lanterns plural, because that just doesn't seem very good. So I don't know why I bought issue 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I'll... Just because Green Lanterns never was one of my things, but it's not quite on the chopping block yet.
Okay.
So in a little bit, we're going to order some pizza. I think we've pretty much... Well, we haven't talked about Justice League.
Or Green Arrow.
Why don't you tell me what you've been thinking about Green Arrow? Because I haven't read much of it yet. I bought all the issues.
Okay, so as many people who listen to the podcast may know, my friend Travis is a huge Green Arrow fan. And like Flash, Green Arrow is one of those characters where I just don't particularly care for him. And so...
but you try to be nice to your friend.
I do. So I hope I don't offend Travis when I say I don't like this book. It out of all of them. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It is definitely in the bottom two of all these books that I've read so far.
The Flash and Green.
Green Arrow. Yes, definitely. Those are definitely the two that I'm seriously going to chop off. So, what do you think of Green Arrow?
Well, I've only read the Rebirth issue so far. And I, again, feel like I can't judge things by the Rebirth issues. But I found the I'm a on the far left stuff to be unconvincing so far.
Yeah.
But it might get better. I kind of like the idea of finding a conservative foil for him rather than... It seems like Black Canary, she's a good romantic thing, but she's just, I'm more liberal than you. Well, I'm trying to be as liberal as you. Can't I keep up with you?
So you're wanting that old Green Arrow Hawkman dynamic?
Was Hawkman?
He was the conservative foil back in the satellite era of the JLA.
Oh, I guess I did not read those.
Yeah.
My DC reading over time is spotty, but no, I was just thinking. I guess that sounds like a good foil. I was thinking of the classic Green Arrow, Green Lantern when Green Lantern was portrayed as the conservative.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I would think it might be interesting if they could use Guy Gardner as a conservative, perhaps. I don't know what it... He seems like he's probably conservative, but I don't know for sure.
Well, he's definitely extreme.
Then you could have kind of the working class conservative versus the really rich liberal. Anyway, I just feel like I can't really judge from the first issue. The Rebirth issue. I haven't even read the first issue.
Well, they're definitely they really, talk about going back to the past and reinventing it, so to speak. They've definitely done that in these first couple issues of Green Arrow that I've read, because all of his money's taken away.
That hadn't happened in Rebirth.
Yeah, that's issue number 1, and some other things happen where he's basically he's cut off from everything and everyone, and he's got to essentially reinvent himself in some aspects. So there's a lot of shades of 1970s Green Arrow in here.
Right, they did that to him before back then. Yeah. I wonder if that's interesting to a new reader who didn't know him as a rich person. Maybe it depends on how the writer conveys that.
And the other, I don't know. Do you watch the Arrow TV series?
I have never seen the Arrow TV series.
Okay,
I've just seen ads with people with abs. That's all I know.
That's pretty much it. I wonder, and I should ask Travis about this, or maybe someone who's listening could let us know how much of this is tying into that television series.
Has he lost his wealth in this TV show?
Have no idea. I'm really curious. One reason why I bring this up is because the beard is back.
Yes.
Which Travis is extremely happy about. I know. And I know.
Are they growing a beard on the TV show?
I've heard that he's growing a beard too. So, just the parallels there. I'm really curious about.
I think he works much better with the beard. And it just ties him into Robin Hood or something.
Yeah. I agree. The last Justice Leaguer title, Aquaman, right?
Oh, Aquaman, right. And I only read the Rebirth issue.
Okay.
I'm not a big Aquaman fan, and it seemed like, just judging from the one Rebirth issue, that it was a retread of stuff that I had seen in the New 52 while I read that under Jeff Johns.
Yeah. Well, I'll say after reading Jeff Johns' run on that series, this was a big disappointment.
Yeah.
So that
is that on the chopping block too?
That's in the top 3 of the chopping blocks. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's good to have something to chop, right?
Yes, definitely. Did we just have the Justice League Rebirth, or was there another issue?
There was another issue which you haven't gotten yet.
Oh, you're right. I haven't. Okay. What are your thoughts though on that?
I liked both issues. They were definitely, for me, potato chip issues. They were just, kind of a superhero story. If I thought about it too deeply, I would have a lot of objections to lots of things, but I just managed not to think about it too deeply.
I did like how in the Rebirth issue, at least, that the Justice Leaguers were talking about the new I keep saying new Superman.
Yes.
But our familiar Superman and how he may fit in or not with the group. So I
and
like
that does not come up in issue number 1.
Oh.
So far, but they're too busy with other things for it to come up.
Okay.
They're kept very busy. So
I think maybe that's Brian Hitch's goal here or plan.
Just a lot of superhero business without a whole lot of characterization.
Yeah. Well, that's because that's kind of how I read his previous Justice League of America series.
Right. Maybe I should go and find it in 50-cent bins. Maybe I'd like it on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, talking about it now, I feel pretty good about a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I do think because there's no, super standout, the way there were some in the New 52, we identified at least 3 that were for me.
Right.
I could drop any of these at any time. It wouldn't be painful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but doesn't that concern you too, that we're not getting a spectacular something out of this? It's just kind of middle of the road. It's okay.
I guess I don't know why that doesn't bother me so much.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because one thing I've sort of realized is I was missing just having some fun superhero stories.
Yeah, that's true.
And now I'm enjoying having them because I've been reading a lot more Image than DC in the past year. And at the same time Rebirth was coming out, it seemed like a lot of my Image comics were on hiatus or something. And so now I just feel much more hyped about superheroes.
Well, and that ties in very well with me personally, because I watched that, I don't know if you did, but I watched that whole DC Rebirth announcement that they did online.
I think I watched some of it on YouTube later on.
Okay, but I watched it live as it was going on, and I was so excited after watching that, during and after watching that. So excited for this, whatever Rebirth was going to be. Mm-hmm. But just the idea of just enjoying, DC superhero comics again.
Yeah.
And like you, I think overall it's an enjoyable read. Some are much better than others in some ways, but again, it's we're only a few issues in, so it's kind of hard to judge either way.
True.
Where they're going, how successful they're going to be. But I'm looking forward to seeing where this takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, the DC universe is now truly a universe again. And so, sometimes you can just enjoy individual comics, but now it's kind of like a question of, do I like the whole DC universe in a way?
Yeah, that's true.
And at the moment, I do like it.
Yes.
We'll see if they start mucking it up.
Well, writers, they can't help
well, it's
themselves.
The editors I worry about for some reason.
That may be very true, yeah. Speaking as an editor at my job, I'm constantly messing things up.
Well, your editing job is probably a bit different than the top editors at DC. But
yes.
But you could probably do a better job than that, I'm sure.
I doubt it very much. Just ask my employees.
Or maybe even beyond the editors, it's the suits at Warner Brothers that worry me. What do they come in and randomly say, let's do this, and then they have to do it or something.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts about the current state of DC Rebirth?
I think, the potato chip theory pretty much covers it for me.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I like that one. Yeah.
Okay. So, it was a lot of fun to talk with you about.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to again thank you for showing me around and hosting me. That was very kind of you and your family. I'm looking forward to coming back and doing it again sometime.
Right.
If you'll let me.
Nothing else, we'll see each other at Rose City.
Rose City Comic-Con. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be very good. Because we have Matt's coming too.
Right, Matt from one of the YouTube channels, Wednesday Serial.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to actually meeting him in person too.
Right, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. All right.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Bye-bye.
Let's get some pizza.
Pizza time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I certainly did, of course. If you have any feedback for either Damien or myself regarding our talk about the first part of DC Rebirth, you can always let me know by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at longboxreview. And if you are curious about anything that Damien puts out regarding comics on his YouTube channel, you can go to YouTube and search for sleepyreader666. And of course, I'll have a link in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening.